Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to First Church, First Center of Religious Science here in New York City. I want to welcome all of you on Zoom, and I want to welcome all of you who are watching us this week on Facebook and YouTube also. Our lesson tonight, Jimmy put together an old Louise Hay lesson, which we have entitled Revamping Your Reality. And so much of it's about letting go so we can experience more freedom ourselves. As I was going over it and reviewing it, as I always do, I liked it. I thought, well, this is a lesson that's always appropriate. For those of you who have just found us, or this is your first time with us, we're probably the oldest running Louise Hay self-healing class in the country. That has to do with a lot of things. First Church here in New York City is the place where Louise Hay came. She attended, she took her classes, she learned about being a truth student, she learned about self-healing here with us. And coincidentally, some 30 plus years ago, I got a copy of her book, which I had never had any intention to be involved with any of this, but I went to a class which appeared a couple weeks after I got the material, and soon thereafter the teacher had to move away, and I became the facilitator of this material, and I've been doing it ever since. It caused me to study religious science and then become a teacher of religious science. So every Thursday night we're going to be approaching some aspect of self-healing, and we principally use Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. We use additional materials also, but all and everything is designed to do a couple things. It's designed for you to realize that you have the power, you have the ability to heal, that every thought you think is powerful. And you have power to use. You know, Ernest Holmes, who was the founder of religious science, said you have power within you, greater than you. There's a power within you greater than you that you can use. And the thing is, we use it constructively when we're thinking positively. We use it destructively when we're thinking negatively. We have a lifetime of stuff inside of us in the way of memories and beliefs, and those thoughts, that whole body of thoughts, which we call our consciousness, is very creative. So when we come into a teaching like this, we encounter Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, you get a lot of really wonderful ideas how you can make improvements, how you can heal your life. So tonight we're going to be talking about how to acquire freedom, freeing our soul. And I encountered a song today, and the sad thing about using YouTube, the good and the bad, the good is there's a lot of beautiful information there, so we use it all the time. We can't replay it and put it on Facebook and put it on YouTube, but I have a song for you this evening which I'm going to play, but I'm first going to read some of the lyrics because in the rebroadcast we will not be able to play the song. So there's a song entitled Free My Soul, and just a few of the lyrics before we play it for you. Are you finding it hard to forgive just because it's easier to hold on, like to the old ideas? It doesn't mean it's good for me, holding on, looking for a sense of control, but it's letting my pain define me. It's getting in the way of who I actually want to be when we're hanging on to when we're stuck in our old ideas and opinions. And then the song makes the plea, it's never too late to be in a new moment. It's never too late to change. And the suggestion then is let go and never look back. You don't want to be a prisoner anymore of your past. So I'm going to free my soul and I'm going to keep moving forward. And I'm going to forgive who's hurt me and focus on my future. I've got one life and I want to make it count. I want to accept the past. I got to love myself. So I'm going to free my soul and keep moving forward. Even when it isn't my fault, I got to own my own side of the story and take all the lessons I learned with me. Lost time never comes back, so why do I keep replaying these things in my head? Why do I keep letting this stuff live in my head rent-free? When it takes away from the joy of who I am today, why do I keep letting it come back? It's never too late to change. It's never too late to let go. So never look back. I don't want to be a prisoner of my past anymore. So I will free my soul. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to forgive who's hurt me and focus on my future. I've got one life and I want to make it count. Accept the past. I got to love myself, so I'll free my soul and keep moving forward. It's easy to get stuck in the past, but no one wants to stay there or stay there forever. I don't want to miss out on new memories, so I'm going to forgive myself and find out who I'm supposed to be, who I've come here to be. So I'm going to free my soul and I'm going to keep moving forward. That song's great. You can listen to it on YouTube. We're going to play it for you now. If you're listening to this lesson in a rebroadcast, you can go to YouTube and listen to the song yourself. So we're going to play the song for you right now, and then we will be right back. Back again. I hope you like that. I thought it was pretty wonderful. So we want to free our souls, and we come here tonight to learn how to heal our life. When I encountered Louise Hay's material many, many years ago, I was helping people who were dealing with AIDS, and at the time the disease was considered incurable, and I was more or less, circumstances threw me in a group, and I picked up the challenge, and I was willing to work with that material. And as we say here often, you teach what you need to learn. And I was also involved in a program of recovery that goes back 40 years, and there's key phrases that I remember. They say, you're standing at a turning point. And I will say that for all of you today. Each of us are standing at a turning point where we can free our souls. We can go forward. There's a saying in religious science, principle is not bound by precedent. And what that's saying is, it doesn't matter what it's been like for the past 2 years in your relationships or your finances, no matter how tough it's been or how rotten it's been or whatever it's been, you're not bound by anything. You have the backing of the entire universe within you, operating through you. So you can free your soul and you can step into a new reality at any point in time. I've been at this long enough. I've seen people heal dis-ease. Louise Hay herself healed dis-ease. She had cancer. She had several operations, and she realized that I need to get at the underlying patterns that are operating within me if I want to bring about lasting change. And so our teaching is more than just a bunch of affirmations. Affirmations are wonderful. They're great places to start. We teach affirmative living. We teach affirmative prayer. But the underlying premise and thought to all of this in New Thought is that there is one power, a presence, a power and a presence that's everywhere. And if you can take that into your mind, there's a power and presence that's everywhere, then you understand it has to be within you. And so when we come into this teaching, we realize not only is there a power and presence, but it's in you, and it's operating through you. And the universe, we say it has your back. We say that because it always responds to you. It has to. It doesn't have a choice. Life responds to you, and life accepts you at your own value of yourself. If you tend to be a thinker that's positive, if you tend to be a lifter, then life is going to respond in kind. If you're the person who's always saying, good job, if you're seeing the good, if you're preoccupied with seeing the good in yourself and in others, you're opening up channels in mind so you will see more good. Conversely, and in contrast, if you're a person who's always looking for what's the worst that can happen, or you're always going for worst case scenarios, If you're focused on what's wrong and what's missing, then you'll have a tendency to draw those experiences to you. So you have power at your disposal, greater than you, of which you are a part. So Louise Hay would say all these things. She perhaps would say them in a softer way. I just gave you kind of like a full throttle religious science message, which is life is responding to you 24/7, all the time. When I came into this teaching, I encountered a practitioner of this teaching, Mary Curowitz, who said to me, "Greg, you were the child of a lesser God." And because I was a Catholic kid, I had nuns teaching me grade school, and I thought that there was a heaven and a hell once upon a time. And I prayed to a God that, hopefully was going to forgive me and save me and all of that. And, you wonder if your prayers are ever answered and all of that at, the time you pray when you're in trouble. But when I encountered this lady, this practitioner, this truth student, she said, the universe so completely loves you that it responds to your every single thought. It doesn't miss a single one. What the mind of man or humankind can see, men and women, what the mind can see and believe, it will achieve. The universe backs you up, So your consciousness is the thing that's playing out in your life. So today we're talking about releasing the need for all the nonsense. Alan Cohen famously called sin, S-I-N, self-imposed nonsense. So all these things that we do to ourselves, the way we think of ourselves, that have been enculturated in us since the time we're children, the stuff we've picked up from our families, our parents, the places where we felt not good enough, these are the things that we want to free ourselves from. Because if I'm bringing in the stuff that was taught to me 40, 50 years ago, and I'm keeping on doing it, how the heck can I ever be in a new moment if I'm keeping on bringing in any idea that would suggest I'm not good enough? Louise Hay would say, where does that come from and by whose standards? Where does it come from where you feel that you're not smart enough or you're not good enough? Where does that come from and how does that serve you today? So we pay attention. We pay attention to our thinking. Thursday nights, typically I'll ask the audience, or the gathering, I'll say, what has it been like being you this week? What has it been like? Have you been like a fun person to be around this week? Have you been pretty much seeing the good in people, places, and things? Has your preoccupation been, oh, look, I can see, I'm seeing what's wonderful, I'm seeing what's good. Has that been your preoccupation, or have you been worried? Have you been sick? Have you been fearful? Have you been looking at what's missing? Have you been focused on geopolitics? Have you been focused on, what's happening with China? Have you been focused on what's happening with your bank account? Where has your focus been? When I came into this teaching years ago, I was taught that I can see peace. I can see good. I can see peace instead of this. What does that mean? When I'm up against a problem, I can go towards worry. I can go towards fearful thinking, and I can get myself all caught up in a real emotional mess. And I've learned that my feelings will follow my thoughts. So if you can accept that as being true, my feelings are going to follow my predominant thoughts. Then you don't have to be a genius to realize it. If your feelings are going to follow your thoughts, it's really intelligent to start thinking, lifting your thinking, elevating your thinking. Ralph Waldo Emerson famously said, hitch your wagon to the stars. What that idea suggests is keep seeing what's good and the bigger thought, to have the bigger idea. Michelle Obama was credited to saying, when they go low, we go high. She later kind of said she's not always that way, but the point is, if you lift your thinking and you keep on seeing the good, that's what we do in this teaching. We release the need to go low. We release the need to be critical. I've told my stories to you many times. You've heard this one before too, but one of my earliest influences was Dr. Bill Cameron out of a Unity Church in Miami. Everything with me is over 30 years ago, but that guy was something else. He said he was studying psychology, he was fascinated with the human mind, and he became even more fascinated with abnormal psychology because I got so good at figuring out what was wrong with people. And today they have a diagnostic statistical manual. It's been revised, I think, 5 times or more, and you can define what's wrong with you can define just about any human condition anybody's having. And that guy said, I got so good at seeing what was wrong with people. And he's a guy that wanted to be a minister. And he told the class all those years ago, he says, I finally understood that I've got the whole process backwards. He said, I didn't want my life to be spent seeing what's wrong in people or how they were sinning and missing the mark. He said, what I wanted to do as a person is I wanted to see the good. And he said, I no longer wanted to become a psychologist or a psychiatrist. He says, I wanted to see what's true and what's perfect and what's whole and what's wonderful about people. And, this is a process. It's a choice also. Pascal, famous philosopher, French philosopher, mathematician, I talk about him often too, because his whole thing was, you have a choice. You can see it, everything is problematic, and you can have your whole construct in mind thinking what's wrong and what's missing, or you can choose to see the good, the God, as Edwina Gaines always talks about. But those two choices bring about dramatically different results. If you're a true student, you're practicing seeing the good, and this is your whole focus. If you think and know that you're living and moving and having your being in divine substance, and you're looking at God, and you know that every encounter is a holy encounter, you're lifted up by that consciousness. Because then it's God seeing God, experiencing God in all things, and every encounter is a holy encounter. If you are in the weeds, like the prodigal son, if you're way off in the far country, you're cut off, you don't feel one with God, you don't feel one with humankind, you don't feel one with anybody. You feel like it's you against the world. And that's a different place to be. Those of us who are drawn to metaphysics and drawn to this teaching, truth students, we understand that we are one with this power, we are one with this life, that whatever God has, we have because we're a part of it. We know that we can heal our life. We know that we have power at our disposal, greater than we are. So it's just a question, what would you like to, how would you like to approach life? Louise Hay would suggest we take the positive approach, and we release the need for all of this nonsense. And then I'm going to embark on some of Louise Hay's personal workshop on the subject. She says, sometimes when we embark on the journey of releasing a pattern of need, it may initially seem as though the situation will get worse. However, this is actually a positive sign that indicates the situation is beginning to shift and change. Because when you begin to love yourself and really take this work seriously, your life starts to change. And people may not really be with it. They may not like you changing because you're not dependent on them in the same way anymore. You're not looking to them for approval. Because what you're working on and toward in this teaching and in this practice is self-acceptance. As you will hear in Louise Hay's work, self-acceptance and self-approval in the now, she will say, are the keys to all positive changes. So we're slowing it down a bit, and we're breathing it in, and we're realizing, okay, I love myself the way I am, and there's nothing I really need to do except slow down and love myself the way I am. Take that pause that we talk about and breathe in, I love myself the way I am. You can release the need to think of yourself. If you feel like you're broke, you feel like there's not enough love or not enough money, or you're feeling like you're being rejected by life, those are all false ideas in the mind of God, and you can approach them one by one, and you can say, I release the need to think of myself this way, and then you can see yourself, if it's prosperity, you can see yourself as being one with supply, one with divine supply, and whatever the universe has, you have. If it's relationships that seem to be going awry, you can tell yourself that you release the need to believe that, and you can know that there is the perfect relationship for you. But what you do is you stop trying to control anything. You go back to spirit, and you know that you're supplied and supported. From Louise, on improving relationships, she says, suppose you're focusing on improving your relationships, and suddenly you find yourself in a heated argument with someone close to you. Although it may seem counterproductive, this conflict might be a manifestation of deeper issues that were previously hidden. And it's a chance for you to delve into your patterns of communication. It's a chance for you to look at all your expectations and unresolved emotions. And she says this will allow for growth and healing. Whatever it is, you release the need for the negative belief. And she went into another subject like expressing your creative abilities. She said, imagine you're exploring and nurturing your creative talents and abilities, and suddenly you find yourself where someone fires you. They don't want... whatever you're doing, someone has decided it's not good enough, it's not what they want. And she said this could be very distressing initially, but it could be a catalyst for you to reassess your career and take a leap into a more fulfilling and aligned vocation. It's a chance for you to recognize your true passions and talents and step into a realm that allows you to express yourself more authentically. She said, as you persist to live the affirmative life and you go deeper and deeper into releasing the need, you will notice that the problem starts shifting in different directions. And this is a natural part and process and an opportunity for further self-discovery. For example, first, if you stay at this long enough, this teaching, you will see the change that you want. When you're working with affirmations, the thing about them is you say them and you want to bring them into your heart, and you have to say them with passion so you believe them. You have power to move mountains, you have power to heal your life, but you've got to believe that you have that power. So, you start with affirmations. If you go to the Science of Mind textbook, when Ernest Holmes talks about affirmative prayer, he will say in the glossary, it's the time, the art, the method. So you've got to put in the time, you've got to connect with yourself, and there needs to be some emotion in it, some passion, where you bring yourself to a belief. And if you're not, in other words, if you're not believing what you're actually stating, it won't really go very far. So you want to take the time to release any of these negative patterns and restate the truth. There is a process for spiritual mind treatment, which it's simple enough. People make it complicated, but it isn't. The first step is a recognition, and you recognize that there is this power, this presence, and it's everywhere, and it's in me. That's step number 2. It's the recognition that the power it's everywhere. And it's in you, and you're one with this power. And then you make a declaration of something that's always been true. There's a pattern, which is like there's a pattern of wholeness, there's a pattern of health, there's a pattern of wealth, there's creativity. All things that belong to the creative power belong to you because you're part of it. And you declare it. And then if something comes up to you which says, oh no, I'm really a failure, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, it's in those moments where you refute the negative, you neutralize the negative, you learn from what that underlying pattern is, and you release it. You neutralize it, and you replace it with the truth. And when you get to the point where, the truth stated you're comfortable with, you're having what's called a shift in consciousness. There's an acceptance. And then you're into the fourth step of treatment. You're giving thanks for this awareness that you have. And then you can release what we say, this perfect idea, into the mind of the universe. And it will bear fruit. You're planting potent seeds into the fertile soil of what we say mind or God. And you will start to see a demonstration of that spiritual work. If you're stuck on something, which sometimes we are, Raymond Charles Barker, who was the founder here in New York, Louise Hay's teacher, he would say, call a practitioner. Have somebody work with you, because sometimes sometimes you're too close to it. We don't foster a dependency upon the ministers or the practitioners. It isn't what we do. We teach you that you have the power to do this for yourself. However, there are times when we're in a place where we're not really connected with our power. And during those moments, there's no shame in picking up the phone and calling for assistance, because we'll help guide you back to the truth of who you are, and then you begin doing your own work again. So you have the power to heal, you have the power to transform, you have the power to release anything that's getting in your way. Louise Hay also went into other things in that lesson. People who, they may be not wanting to get at those inner patterns because they know they'll represent change, and so they're doing other things. You might be smoking, you might be overeating, you might be doing different things because you don't really want to deal with the issue at hand. So you begin wherever you are. Oftentimes, she said, it's like cleaning a house. You just begin where you are, one thought at a time. When relationships are going awry, she had an affirmation. She said, you might affirm, I am willing to release the need for uncomfortable relationships, acknowledging that you no longer wish to perpetuate such dynamics. As you go further, you might realize that criticism from others is a significant source of discomfort. And since you realize you're creating your own experiences, you say to yourself, I am willing to release the need to be criticized. And upon deeper reflection, you might uncover that as a child, you received a lot of criticism. And somehow it became familiar to you, and that was a pattern that was okay. It felt normal. She says, but now we're at a place where we recognize the need to forgive and heal these past wounds. Through persistent affirmation and introspection, we might find that things we're doing now no longer serve us. So we work at things one thing at a time, and we have transformations. These transformations indicate that we have been successfully making progress. There's a lot of things that are in this lesson about everything from smoking cigarettes to releasing the need, and on and on. There's another section where you might have a habit, for example, of talking about other people or be involved in a lot of unproductive conversation. So we want to release the need to gossip and talk about other people. Because when we're doing that, that comes from feelings of insecurity usually, or the desire to fit in or the need for validation. So you'll say to yourself something like, I release the need to talk about other people, to judge or gossip. And she says, and you might look at some of the reasons behind this behavior. There's a suggestion that we can work on cultivating empathy, compassion, and focus on personal growth instead of using our time in these ways. There's a lot of people, she mentioned in this particular workshop, that have a need for approval. Many individuals have a deep-seated need for approval from other people, which can often lead to compromising their own values and desires. So here's an affirmation if that happens to be an issue that's coming up for you. It is, I'm willing to release the need for external approval. I had that when I was younger. I was more codependent, was trying to take care of everybody. And that's borderline control when you're trying to do that, because I learned, people don't behave. And Raymond Charles Barker, who was our pastor here, the first one, I oftentimes talk about his famous lesson of how he had a lesson how to change everybody, and everybody showed up, and essentially he said, you can't do it. So what we're always involved here is, self-acceptance and self-approval. So we're always working on a greater sense of self-worth and authenticity. Some of you have a need for perfectionism, which was a part of that workshop. You're obsessed with getting everything right, getting the details right, and I'm reminded of a saying that I heard long ago, which is, don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. Just easy does it with yourself, and just keep doing the good works you're doing, and have the willingness to release the need for perfectionism. As we embark on self-compassion more and more, we will break free from cycles of self-imposed pressure, and we can enjoy the process of learning and growing. Remembering that each individual's journey is unique. So everybody's in life that you can think of is, everybody's evolving. This is a beautiful idea of religious science. They say perfect place, perfect time, and all the time. And what they're trying to say is, my goodness gracious, you've learned a lot, you've come a long way. And isn't it wonderful being you? And this, by the same token, the people that are here in the room with you or that they've come a long way too. And if you have that kind of understanding, spiritual understanding, compassion, you don't want to judge anybody. You're going to realize, geez, my God, they've done a lot. And you might say, but they're acting like idiots. They're acting like fools. And then you have to remember, this human being is a spiritual being having a human experience, and they've done the best they could with what they have. And do you want to really be the one who's judging them? Do you want to be judged? Nobody wants to be judged. We're here to give them a high five and say, hey, good job, We're all here learning, we're all here growing, we're all in it together, evolving and growing, and we're here to be celebratory, we're here to celebrate everyone's efforts wherever they are. If you find that you're having a problem with other people, realize first and foremost, it is your problem. See, we have a tendency in the world to talk about what's wrong with people, places, and things. And the fact of the matter in religious science, we realize that everyone's evolving perfectly. We're always in the right place. It doesn't look like it, but we are. And the other thing in this teaching, we will learn that we are cause to our own experience. And that never means we're to blame. It just means that, we're responsible. So if your life is not working for you, then you've got some decisions to make. You're not here to make people wrong, but you're here to learn to love yourself more and take better care of yourself. That might involve, someone has to be in a different place. That you don't need to hate anyone. There's a saying from Al-Anon years ago, which is, there's several sayings. Is let go and let God. You just want to take better care of yourself and release people. Release any of these patterns within you that are causing you pain and suffering. The lecture goes on. This is, again, one of Louise Hay's old workshops. As you delve deeper into the practice of releasing needs, you'll continue to uncover insight and experience transformative shifts in every area of your life. Just embrace life, and this entire process is an opportunity for personal growth. I was told a long time ago, envision life as a schoolhouse, and you're here to learn, and every day there's going to be more lessons. One of the things I think it's good to do is to take a pause. And if you were involved in a 12-step program, they would say have a daily inventory where you reflect on what it's been like being you and your part in the day. If you've made a mistake, correct it. None of us are supposed to be without. We all, we miss the mark. So. If you have the ability to realize that you've kind of blown it or, whatever, that daily inventory, reassess and, make the correction. You're not here to be perfect. You're doing the best you can with what you know, and so is everybody else. Another thing to always say and to be reminded of is each of us, because we're one with this one, we're one with this one energy, whatever God is, we are. Because of that, we have this spiritual, we have what's called an internal guidance within us. In other words, you have spirit within you, and it will guide you if you let it. So you're able to tap into guidance. You know, I used to ask myself a question when there was decisions to be made and I seemed to be conflicted. I would ask myself a question: what's the most self-loving thing I can do right now? And regarding any given situation, the thing that's funny about that is you'll always get an answer. You may not always want to do. You may not want to do what that answer, because the answer will be right there. But then we have a tendency to rationalize, and we don't want to do what but the guidance is always available. From Louise Hay's workshop, she had examples. When she said we're working on prosperity and we lose our wallet, we lose our jobs, or we're working on improving our relationships, and she says all of a sudden we have a fight, or a relationship might separate, or there could be a breakup. And when we're working on becoming more healthy, we may manifest a cold or some disappointing medical news from our doctors. So oftentimes when we start working on ourselves, things get stirred up. Sometimes the problems start showing up. It's an indication it's time for you to heal something. And whatever's coming up, you're going to want to say something like, I'm willing to release the need for whatever it is, and keep reaffirming that all is well. And it will be. So staying with it, staying the course, and before long, you will see a quickening in all these areas of your life. I could go on with this lesson. It was handed to me today by Jimmy. It's just a bunch of notes from a very long workshop. But from the song we started with, we want to forgive everybody. We want our soul to be free. If there's any place within you of darkness or despair, I suggest let it go. We don't want to stay there. Everything about our teaching is about being in the now. So let's collectively be willing to release the past and forgive everyone, and forgive ourselves most of all. And tell ourselves, I love, accept, and approve of, say it to yourself, I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. And that'll be it for now. I'm interested in seeing what comes up for all of you from this little discussion. Please go back and listen to that song. It's kind of wonderful. And so it is. Thank you.